Hello and welcome to another great episode of the MTL Sports Podcast. This is your boy Markel. We're going solo dolo today, and we're gonna recap a little bit, just a tiny bit of NFL action. Your boy has been busy this weekend, so I've only got the opportunity to watch a couple of games. So we'll go with that. And then, of course, we're going to wrap up NBA previews with, I believe we have the Pacific and the Atlantic divisions. So strap in, put your seatbelts on. This is a jam-packed episode, and we're going to, go out with a bang. So let's get it started, y'all. NFL Week 6 action. No, it actually was a jam-packed slate of games. I know we went over last week, games of the week, and I would say pretty much every game that we picked was, I would say it was enjoyable. Unfortunately, like I said, was busy this weekend, so only had the opportunity to preview, or actually just to watch a few games. So we'll probably keep this very, very brief. 2-minute offense will be 2-minute offense on this episode, guys. So let's kick it off with Cincinnati versus the Seattle Seahawks. This was a game. All right. I think Lawrence said it. This would be the best game of the week, or at least in the 1:00 window of games. And I would have to say he was right. Starting out, I mean, you can see the box score. Like, the first half was just, I would say for the most part, it was offense. Like, both teams were driving. We were getting scores, here and there. And I thought, hey, going into the second half, I was like, okay, this is going to continue to be a shootout. Both teams' offenses look like they're in rhythm. So I wasn't expecting the second half that actually did occur, though. Now, I think both teams made really good halftime adjustments. I just think, we'll break down both sides, all right? Starting with Cincinnati, I think their offense just stalled. All of our receivers look at Chase. 13 targets but only caught 6 balls. I think coverages were a little bit better in the second half, but also there's a lot of drop balls from Chase, Higgins. So we can't have that if we want to, keep the offense going on all cylinders. And then surprisingly, Joe Mixon, 12 carries for 38 yards. Wasn't very effective, which I wasn't expecting. I was expecting, okay, the secondary is going to be really, really, suspect. Maybe, they would just add another corner in there just to be sure, because, Cincinnati, we're running 3 receivers, 4 receiver sets. And, they know we pass happy, so maybe they, take out a linebacker, run the nickel, maybe even run the dime majority of the game. But their front 7 in Seattle actually, held Mixon. It's only 12 carries. And I've been saying this all for all 6 weeks. Hey, we need to give him the ball at least 25 times. So maybe if you give him 12 more carries, he gets close to, I don't know, let's just say 70, 80 yards. But definitely not his best performance so far. And then if we look at the Seattle side, I think what it came down to was their defense could move the ball. And we all know Cincinnati's defense, so far this year, we've seen glimpses of last year's defense, but we know we lost a lot of guys. Jesse Bates, Bell, a few other guys. But for the most part, the core of the defense is there, but it's mainly just like a young secondary with like Hill and Turner starting, and then you got Scott that came over from the Rams. And so it's been a learning process, but I will say the defense so far has been timely stops, timely defense. And I think, and I went over this last episode, I believe, when I was like, you don't have to have the best defense, but you need to have timely defenses meaning you need to make timely stops. And for Cincinnati, it's in the red zone. I would say in the second half, Seattle got in the red zone a few times, but I think they only walked away with points. Literally just once. Like, they only scored 3 points in the second half. So literally once out of like I don't know the exact number, but probably like 4 or 5 times in the red zone, they just walked away without points. So red zone defense is outstanding for Cincinnati. It's definitely saved us in this game. You can go back to the Rams game where they couldn't punch in a couple times, and that was pretty much the deciding factor of that game. So like these low scoring, these low scoring games where maybe Joe Burrow isn't feeling himself and the offense just not clicking. We can rely on the defense to maybe they don't make a 3-and-out every single series, or maybe they can't make a stop in the middle of the field. But hey, when it comes to the red zone, our 20 yards that we're gonna defend, and we're gonna at the very least just let them kick field goals. And you know what Unc says, kicking field goals will lose the game. And Seattle kicked what, 2 field goals to our 1. So I mean that was a deciding factor. And then the defense definitely creates turnovers, definitely generating a lot more than last year. I mean, even this game, Gino had 2 picks. Cam is just balling. He is strapping DK, and DK is fucking voided up. Excuse my language, but that man is just walking steroids, and yeah, he had unlocking key. So that was really good effort by him. And then overall, the secondary is actually gelling really well. And I know Awuzie didn't play, so it's really good to see. I think DJ Turner got his first start, so it's good to see the young secondary kind of coming to their own, and they're stepping up for the assignment. And even though run defense wise, we definitely have regressed, I think it was just good enough. Because Kenneth Walker to go 19 carries, 62 yards, and only 1 touchdown, and he averaged basically 3 yards a carry. That's actually really good. That's probably better than the previous weeks where we pretty much just get ran over. So I'm liking these slight improvements there, but I think overall the defense is just not as good as it was last year. So we just need to fix. We need to fix a couple things, and that's definitely something that's going to happen going into the bye. I'm sure Lou is going to be cooking all this week and next week, try to fix the loopholes that we have. So all in all, it was a good game. I really enjoyed watching it. Definitely was the only game out of the 1 o'clock games that I actually saw, and most of the totality. And then going on to Sunday Night Football, right? The only other game that I watched this week. We're not going to talk about the Chiefs Broncos game. That was just a crap show. It's just sad what Thursday Night Football has come to. Just disgusting games. But Giants Bills, low scoring game, but it was actually like a really good, one of the very few low scoring games where you're like, wow, this is actually like enjoyable to watch, because it was just like a lot of twists and turns and all that good stuff. So my takeaways: the Giants are really bad, but Tyrod Taylor played well for like kind of short notice. I'm pretty sure Danny Dimes was ruled out like end of Thursday, maybe early Friday. So I'm sure he was taking first team reps for the whole week, but like the uncertainty of like, okay, is Daniel Jones, is he gonna actually try to play, or try to take these seriously, which I'm sure he was, but it's just like, it's a different feeling of going into a matchup knowing you're gonna start like the beginning of the week versus like towards the end of the week, the last practice or two, you're like, oh, I'm starting. Like, okay, you gotta get your mindset right. So Tyrod played well. Saquon came back, as you can see, 24 carries for 93 yards, about 4 yards a carry. Had a couple big breaks late in that fourth quarter. And Tyrod ran the ball decently well. So my takeaways for the Giants is the defense surprisingly held Buffalo to 14, which is very surprising because they've given up some big games. I don't know if it's actually the defense or was Josh Allen not feeling it. Who knows? Because Josh Allen, as you can see, he went 19 for 30, 169, a pick and 2 tubs. Not his best game at all. So some of the top quarterbacks just had really bad games. Maybe it was just a bad quarterback week. Burrow didn't play well. Josh Allen didn't play well. Hurts, he sold. Brock Purdy, I can't really blame him because like his two most important weapons were unavailable for the game is in different points. So I'm not gonna knock him too much, but definitely not a good for like your top two quarterbacks. Most of them did not have a good week. So yeah, the Giants, I was surprised in terms of defense. And Tyrod made some good throws, some good timely throws. He's really good with decision making too. Like I don't think he really set his team back badly, except for that first half blender where he looked like he changed the play last second. Looked like he audible to the run, even though that it was what I mean, they were on the goal line, but it was only like 11 or 12 seconds, and they had no timeout. So if you run the ball, you better damn sure make sure he gets in. And you didn't know because he's not 100%, but he's out there trying to play, trying to do his best. So I don't know, it was definitely a risky call and didn't pay out. So yeah, you win some of those, you lose some of those. But moving on to the Bill side. Yeah, Josh Allen just had a bad game. Their running game was really, really good, though. I mean, James Cook was cooking, 14 carries on 71 yards. Latavius Murray, he was cooking too, 12 carries, 45 yards. Damian Harris unfortunately got injured. Prayers up to him. Did not look good, but he did hold a thumbs up. So hopefully it's something he can come back from in a very short amount of time. Hopefully he's not done for the season. You hate to see those type of things, but Diggs was cooking, just didn't find the end zone. My takeaways is the offense just like Cincinnati wasn't clicking. I don't know if it's prime time like jitters or whatever, but I don't know. It just wasn't their night, but they did enough just to come out with a win. It was an ugly win, but they definitely came out with the victory. Giants are 1-5. Next week, I think they play the Commanders, and the Bills are 4-2. And I couldn't tell you who they play next. Let's see if it's not at the bottom. So, yeah, this is a good game out of the Sunday night games. Probably not the best so far, but definitely it was worth watching. But yeah, guys, that is all that I have to go over. Like I said, Thursday night was just piss poor on both sides. It just, if you watch it, and I don't really feel like going over that. So we will stop right here. But next, we have a topic that I'm really, really can't wait to get into. We have the NBA previews. We have the last two divisions to go over. So stay tuned. Talk about some hoops. NBA season is officially about a week, 8 days from now. About a week and a day. Next Tuesday night on TNT is the kickoff to the NBA season. So we have to get through these last two divisions and then get through our predictions for next year in the next episode. Meaning, just like awards, kind of like how we did with the NFL. We're gonna do Rookie of the Year, Coach of the Year, MVP, who we think is gonna make the finals, all that good stuff. So we'll do that on Thursday. So stay tuned for that. But we do have this last division to get through. So we have the Pacific and I believe the Atlantic divisions as our last two that we have to preview. We did the Pacific. So I think it's Atlantic and Northwest, I think, is what we have to do. So let's start with. Do we do the Bulls? Yeah, we did the Bulls, and we did that. Yeah, so yeah, I was right. Got myself a little psyched out. Let's start with the C's, y'all. Now, of course, we know the C's missed out on Dame Lillard, but they didn't miss out on the Dame Lillard sweepstakes because there was one last second place winnings that needed to be handed out, I guess, and that ended up being Drew Holiday. As we know, Dame went to the Milwaukee Bucks, plays with Giannis now, the one of two other super teams in the East. Celtics was already practically a super team with Jaylen Brown, Tatum, and Porzingis, but they added another nice little piece, and especially plugged the hole that I thought, and I've been saying all summer, was the one hole that kind of gave me hesitation to, not only for them to beat Miami, but for them to be a team like the Sixers or the Bucks, and it was point guard. And so they got Drew Holiday, the perfect replacement for Marcus Smart in terms of if you need a point guard that can do all the things Smart can do, even better, and also to fill out that point guard role that they desperately need because Smart's not really a traditional point guard. He can get you 5 assists a game, but it's not pretty. It's not, he doesn't orchestrate the offense in a way that's like, I mean, it's conducive, but is it conducive to winning a championship? No. And I think Drew Holiday, with his championship experience from the Bucks, I think that with just like his natural point guard skills, because I mean, he pretty much averages 7 assists for his career. He's a natural passer. If you see, the Bucks with and without him, the offense definitely looks different. With the ball going through his hands opposed to the ball going through Giannis's hands and him running the offense. So I think him starting at point guard, hopefully they decide to start him. Some of these preseason games, he's been coming off the bench, kind of like a Malcolm Brogdon. I don't think that's the right role for him, but we will soon find out what Missoula's, starting lineup will be to start the season. So far, ESPN has him as the starting point guard, which is what he needs to do. And then, of course, you have, Jaylen Brown, who still can't dribble left-handed. Jason Tatum, Porzingis. And I guess you start Al Horford. I've seen some lineups where Porzingis is starting at center, and then you have Derek White in the starting lineup. Which, I mean, let's be honest. Derek White was all NBA defender last season. Do you really want someone of that caliber coming off your bench? I don't think so. So it would make more sense, especially, I mean, Horford's age. You probably want to try to save him for the postseason. Probably makes more sense to start Derek White and just have Tatum at the 4, Porzingis at the 5, Brown at the 3. But I guess this is just the depth chart as of now. But my expectations, I would say Eastern Conference Finals at the very least. I think even when I don't know if I said this during Miami's preview, but the East is going to come down to 2 teams, the 2 super teams, Bucks, Celtics, and then from there, it's honestly, in my eyes, is a coin flip of who wins. I don't think one team is necessarily better than the other. Both teams have their pros and cons, and this is all on paper. We haven't really seen them play like a real meaningful game. These preseason games, you can tell the players are just having fun, just trying to get into game shape. So I'm not making too much off of that, but at the very least, we're seeing Eastern Conference Finals from the C's. Moving on, we have the Nets, the Brooklyn Nets, free of the stranglehold of, Kevin Durant and Kyrie Irving. They got a new young core with Simmons, Dinwiddie, Bridges, Cam, and Nicky Claxton. And then they have Cam Thomas come off the bench, which is kind of wild, to be honest. This team, I know last season they were the 6th seed. That was pretty much just because they stayed afloat after the 2 big trades. Mikal and Spencer and Cam basically just kept that team afloat, and they just kind of slid into that 6th seed spot, and they tried their hardest in the first round, but ultimately lost. But I think this year they're a candidate for the play-in. I don't think, in terms of putting it all together, it depends on how soon they do that. And now you're going to reinsert Ben Simmons, and people say he looks good. To me, I don't know. It's a hard sell. I'm pretty much giving up on Ben Simmons. I don't believe in people who keep giving up on their team. So it's gonna be. I'm gonna be tough pressed to kind of put them in any type of playoff scenario. But yeah, I mean, they're gonna be fun. They're gonna be exciting to watch. Hopefully they can, come together sooner than later, and then maybe they'll have a better chance to actually make the playoffs. But I mean, play-in is probably where they're destined to go. Um, Moving on, the New York Knicks. Not much of an off season for them, honestly. Just a lot of re-signing guys. I mean, they did their biggest thing was probably getting DiVincenzo, stealing him from the Warriors, and Josh Hart, who kind of opted in last minute so that they could maneuver the money to give the DiVincenzo, and then hopefully they'll re-sign him at some point. They're in no rush to re-sign him, but they definitely want to compensate him fairly. And then you still have your core, Brunson, Grimes, Barrett, Randall, Mitchell Robinson. He's still your starting center, even though Hartstein is more than capable of stepping in and starting some games, and then Jericho Sims as well. It's a pretty decent backup. They got rid of Obi Toppin, which sucks, but just it was hard to find minutes for him, and he was just becoming kind of like that sour grape of the locker room, just kind of killing the vibes, and you don't want that type of energy in the locker room. Um, Quickly, running up for sixth man of the year, contract year for him. Do they trade him? Do they re-sign him because he is a key part of the team? But do you really need to, because now you have Josh Hart is most likely going to sign long term, and then you have DiVincenzo, who could easily be a six man. Do you really want to commit all this money when you possibly could go and get a cat, or maybe you make a run at Donovan Mitchell if the Cavs aren't doing too hot? A lot of questions there, but um, definitely some interesting storylines to just look out for this season. My expectations in terms of regular season and postseason, they'll definitely be a top 6 team, somewhere where they were last year. I think last year they were 4 or 5. They'll probably be in that same range. Like I said, nothing more than DiVincenzo happened, but there's, they're still a star player away. I think Brunson, pick up from the last offseason, he can only get better. But to depend on either RJ or Julius Randle to be your second best player, I think it's just not a good recipe to follow. Because Randle's sporadic, he comes and goes. Same with RJ, even though in my eyes RJ got more consistent last season, especially when I think Jalen was out for a couple of games, like a little stretch, and then RJ just put together a good couple games and looked pretty good. Looked like that was the player that we've been trying to see him become, but just a lot of mouths to feed in that Knicks starting lineup. So it'll be tough to kind of see him take a next step, and be like an all-star caliber player. I don't know. So we'll see if he stays with the Knicks. He does have an extension that I think kicks in, or maybe it's in his second year of. So, but yeah, top 6 playoff seed. Second round, they're destined for. And maybe, who knows? Maybe they can sneak into the Eastern Conference Finals. I don't think so, but as we know from last year, anything can happen in the NBA. And speaking of anything that could happen, 76ers and James Harden. The James Harden saga is the last little storyline from the offseason that is still open-ended, just not a resolution to. And honestly, it doesn't look like there's going to be a resolution for a very long time, at least until February, which is months and months away. And I say February because that's the trade deadline. And it seems like, Daryl Morey, that front office is very keen on getting top dollar for James Harden. Now, in my eyes, I don't think you can get top dollar for James Harden, especially after the past couple of. Not like his play has been bad. It's definitely taken a hit in terms of his scoring has been down, but his assists have been relatively, good. I'll take 10 assists a game from an all-star caliber player who can occasionally go back to his MVP form. Like, I'll take that. But the whole part about him wanting a near max deal with 4 years, I mean, that's kind of, honestly, that's a little scary. And if I'm another GM out there, do I really want to trade for Harden? And then knowing that I have to re-sign him for 4 years to like a near max extension, I don't know about that one. So we've seen the Clippers kind of tiptoe around the situation. I think the report came out either today or yesterday that was like they preferred Drew Holiday and actually included more in their Drew Holiday package than they did to the Sixers with the Harden package. So it's clear that the Clippers think they can win without James Harden, but it wouldn't hurt to have him. And I think now another report actually, it might be even been in that same report where it was like Terrence Mann is just like off limits, not on the trading block, and teams need to stop asking for him. So it's clear that the Clippers only want to trade away their older vets like Batum, Covington. Even I could see like a Norman Powell being available. Of course, a Marcus Morris Senior is available. Yeah, so I mean, that's a team that's really only trying to pry Harden away from the Sixers. Miami's not really interested. They wouldn't mind it if it was for the right price, but in reality, they're not interested. And then like other teams, like I mean, you don't really need him. I mean, it's so early in the season, and you're almost done with the whole preseason training camp period, and you don't want to kind of trade for a guy and then have to teach him everything that you just taught everyone else, and so he's going to be behind. And even though he's a great player, it's just the long term aspects of what has to happen in terms of him getting re-signed, and you have to make sure he's happy, and then you're committing near max dollars. It's just a lot. So we'll see what happens in that James Harden saga, but my guess is it probably takes until the trade deadline to move him. I don't think it's going to happen anytime soon. But in terms of their regular season and postseason success, number one, it all depends on James Harden if he's actually going to show up and ball out, or if he's just going to kind of just be there, kind of like a Ben Simmons, kind of just going through the motions, kind of just putting up, a little bit of numbers, or is he going to actually be doubted as much as he can? And, to what extent does that help them win games? If it helps them win games, he's going to keep starting. If not, then I would expect the Sixers to kind of unleash Tyrese Maxey if that's the case. Like, he doesn't really try hard, Harden does. So, but Tyrese Maxey is definitely the key to the season. I feel like he needs to take a leap. He needs to be, an all-star this season for the Sixers to get to where they want to go. Whether that's whether James Harden's on the team or not, he needs to take the next step. And yeah, I mean, they're a top 4 team. I'm not going to definitively put them at 3 because I think Miami so far, and then I know I don't pay too much into the preseason, but so far they look like they fix a lot of their problems from last season. It looks like a lot of internal improvement, so I'm pretty optimistic, not trying to be biased there. But also the Sixers, they didn't really make any offseason moves other than adding a Pat Bev and a Kelly Oubre. So we'll see how much those 2 players actually contribute. I think, they need to come on sooner rather than later. And then, yeah, we'll just see how it goes. They're a top 4 team. We'll see if Joel can stay healthy all season heading into the postseason, because that's kind of been his Achilles heel is, just not staying healthy in the right times. And then, yeah, they just got to get through this James Harden saga. So it's kind of like a sit and wait game in terms of the situation. But the last team, we got the Raptors. And honestly, they're in a holding pattern. Um, they have two guys that basically need to get moved, but will they move them? Because for whatever reason, this front office just believes that it's just going to click all of a sudden, and this team is just going to win a bunch of games and kind of run the tables in the East. Now, don't get me wrong, they're a nice young core. They got nice young players: OG, Scotty, Pascal, Grady Dick, Gary Trent Jr., Precious, like Jalen McDaniels. Tons of young talent, tons and tons. But to be honest, I don't see them. I mean, this will be like the third year of them just like waiting for some magic to happen. And it's honestly, it's just not. This team isn't. I mean, there's no other than Pascal. There's no star power. And even if let's just say OG or Scotty become all stars this season, there's still two big guns in the East, and then there's two smaller like little mini bosses in the Heat and the Sixers that the Raptors would have to go after. And to be honest, this roster is just not good enough to compete with those teams. They're good enough to compete against the likes of the Nets and the Magic, and they're like a little bit, but they're like the same tier as them, and maybe they can push the Knicks to like 7 games. Maybe they can push the Cavs to 7 games, but I mean that's pretty much what I have their season, their ceiling as. I don't see much more, even with significant improvement from within, or it's going to take them moving off a couple of these guys. Like you got to move off of OG to go get like a star player. You got to move off of Scotty's pretty much off limits. So maybe not that, but Pascal has 1 year left. You got to move off of him if you want to kind of upgrade the roster, or kind of hit the reset button. Like you don't want to be in this NBA purgatory of just being like a middleman. Like it doesn't get you anywhere because you're getting mid to late lottery picks, and most of the time those don't really turn out how you want them to turn out. There's exceptions like Bam, Donovan, Hero, as recent examples, but usually it's just not the case. So we'll see. We'll see if they blow it up or if they kind of double down and just see, hey, we're gonna run this young core to the ground till the wheels stop, till the wheels come off, and whether that's us making the play in again, or barely, or just getting whooped in the East, we'll see. But moving on to the Western Conference, we have the last division there, the Northwest. We'll start with the champs, the Denver Nuggets. All right. Not too much happened. They did lose Bruce Brown. They lost Jeff Green. My bad, not Jeff Gordon. What the hell? Lost Jeff Green. Two major pieces to the last year's team are gone. So they're gonna ask more of Christian Braun and some of these other rookies that they drafted. My expectations, I mean, pretty much the same. They're gonna be Western Conference a bust, most likely. Going up against one of the two other juggernauts, the Lakers, the Suns. I mean, honestly, the West, it could end. I mean, it's in the hands of a couple teams, so I can't definitively say the Nuggets are going to repeat because repeating is hard, and Jamal Murray is a dog and he's getting better every year, and he should be an All-Star this year at the very least. And Jokic, he's a preseason favorite for MVP, rightfully so, because he played out of his mind in the playoffs and in the finals. His confidence is through the roof right now, as it should be. And then, of course, we're going to see improvements from MPG and Aaron Gordon, from his like newfound confidence that he gained in the playoffs. This team should still bounce back and be very, very good. In terms of repeating, though, I don't expect that to happen. But at least Western Conference Finals, they will be competing for the number 1 seed in the West because their team is pretty deep, honestly. Reggie Jackson got re-signed. Christian Braun still there, Justin Holiday, Watson, Najee, uh, DeAndre Jordan for some backup center minutes. So we'll see. The team is still really deep, so I believe they will win enough games to still be in that 1 seed contention. And if they do, they have a really good shot to get back to the finals. But moving on, enough about the champs. We got the Timberwolves. A lot of question marks around this team. Is it Cat's team? Is it Ant's team? Why the hell they trade for Rudy Gobert? He's just a soft bum, honestly. Like, he's just soft. They do have Nas Reed. I think they re-signed him. Troy Brown Jr. They have Nah. They have McLaughlin. Yep, McLaughlin, Shake Milton. They still have Kyle Anderson. So they have pieces. It just depends on if they can kind of all mesh together. They have one more. They have, I don't think Conley was there to start the season. So they have a training camp with Conley. Jaden McDaniels. I believe he slots into. Because I don't think he started last season. So I think he's going to slot into the starting small forward role. We'll see how he does with that. And this is the make or break year because honestly, if these two can't work together, one of them has to go. And all signs are pointing to Cat being the one that has to go, even though he was there first. And at one point, he was the player that GMs wanted the most to start a team with. And it kind of seems like that kind of storyline, that mentality is kind of, faded away and kind of been replaced with, kind of like the Anthony Davis like effect where, okay, this guy doesn't really play all that much. And when he does play, he's kind of soft and he's not living up to his potential and he's not dominant enough. He's not living up to his talent level. Like all those questions are kind of creeping into the Karl Anthony Towns, discussion right now. So, and rightfully so. I feel like he does downplay his talent, doesn't really play up to what he could be, his potential. Doesn't really have like that it factor a lot. His engines doesn't really run on all cylinders all the time. So I totally understand what these, insiders and analysts, and even just fans in general, just like, saying these type of things. But I'm expecting actually they have the potential to be top 6. Will they be top 6? Probably not. Most likely fighting for that play-in spot. But I mean, talent-wise, you can't tell me they're not somewhat loaded. Like they have all the talent to be a top 6, but it just depends on if these two guys can gel and how soon. And they don't need to be co-alphas, but they need to have one of them decide like, hey, I'm the man. You just got to follow. So hopefully it's Ant. But honestly, I wouldn't mind if Cat, steps up and it's like, hey, I'm the best damn player on this team. Like you guys got to follow my lead. And then we need a better season from Gobert. Gobert was awful last season. Got punched by his own teammate. Rebounds were down, and then he was shooting threes in France, working on his 3 game. I don't know. This guy needs to work on a lot of things, and 3-pointers is not one of them. So, man, you guys already know how I feel about Rudy Gobert. I just think he needs to live up to the contract. You can't get a supermax or near a supermax and play like a bum half the time. So it is what it is. But yeah, top 6 team potential, but most likely, honestly, they're going to be in the play-in. Another play-in team, we got the OKC Thunder. Like I said, they're definitely not there. They got a lot, and I mean a lot of young talent, but I mean SGA is pretty much by himself in terms of like all-star star caliber players. Josh Giddey is good, but is he all-star level yet? No. Jalen Williams played well last season. I'll say both the Williams played well last season. And then, of course, Chet was out last season, so this will be his first season starting. Well, actually playing. He will be a starting center. He's looked pretty decent in the preseason so far. Um, no concerns there. He's actually, um, I regard him pretty highly. I'll just say that. Then you have Isaiah Joe, who can just bomb threes. I mean, this guy is good. Um, Dort is back. Who else do they have? Trey Mann, Jeremiah Robinson Earl. Like a lot of young pieces. They're gonna be more or less like last year, though. Unfortunately, they're gonna be a playing team. Um, Last year they probably gotta have themselves try to. I mean, I don't mind teams proving that they're players, kind of young guys like playing hard and kind of just letting people know like, hey, I deserve to be here and all that stuff. But um, yeah, I'm expecting more or less of last season. SGA is going to be SGA. He's a top 10 player in this league. If you've seen ESPN's article, he's definitely a top 10 player. So it's just honestly, as far as he carries them, is just how far they're gonna go. Moving on to the Trailblazers, the poverty franchise led by I can't even remember this guy's name. I don't even care. They're working with Scoot Simons, Shadon Sharp, Jeremy Grant, and they went out and got Aiton, which is actually really good for them. They really needed to get off of Nurkic. And they also added Time Lord, Robert Williams, they had Matisse Thybulle. They added Brogdon, who's still banged up somehow. Um, we'll see if he stays on the Blazers or if he finds a new team. Hopefully, he gets the hell out of there because he's going to be in purgatory. We don't want that for him. So they'll be bad. They'll probably be the worst team in the NBA, even though they do have talent. But in terms of winning games, though, I just don't see them winning a lot of games. I don't. Oh, Joe Cronin is that goofball's name. Yeah, I don't see them winning too many games. They're probably gonna be the worst team in the West, and rightfully so because I think they have a pick that they owe the Bulls, so they probably want to keep that pick because it is top like 12 or 15 protected. So they will probably keep that pick, and they probably have every ambition to keep that pick. So, yeah, nothing more of that. Last team, the Utah Jazz. Surprisingly, they did well last season. I think they were in that play-in contention. This year they're going to be in the same spot. They did add John Collins, who honestly is either going to be really good for them or he's going to be just like he was on the Hawks, kind of comes and goes, kind of an afterthought. Or maybe they try to move him again, try to flip him if you can. I don't think you can though. Candidates to get flipped though are definitely Sexton and Kelly Olynyk. Honestly, I don't think they have a bright future on this team, but who knows? Maybe things will just be clicking, and maybe they'll have career years, and maybe Danny Ainge will just want to keep the score together and just see how long he can keep the wheels going. My thought process is you have Jordan Clarkson, so you probably honestly could start him because you just re-signed him, so you're not going to trade him away anytime soon. So maybe you just roll with Sexton and then build the trade value up and then move off of him, and then same with Olynyk because teams could use those two players. So, and then unfortunately they stole our man Omiya Yurtseven from Miami. Sad to see one of our players go, but honestly, the kid needed some playing time, and he wasn't going to get that in Miami, especially once they kind of committed to Jovic and Thomas Bryant. So, and resigned Kevin Love. So minutes for him were looking slim to none. So I'm happy for him. But yeah, they're a play-in team. Marketing should be back from Finland from mandatory military service. He should be back, and we'll see how he does. He probably is going to be a little rough because he's just been in like manholes and bunkers all off season, just shooting at whatever they do over there in Finland. But but yeah, nice team, but they mostly are going to look to move off some of these guys because that's Danny Ainge for you. He's more into gathering picks than anything else, basically, when he's trying to rebuild a team in his and kind of his liking. So expect more of the same in that type of aspect. But yeah, I think that's it, guys. Yeah, that's the last team in the Northwest. We are officially done with NBA previews in terms of divisions. And like I said, on Thursday's episode, we will preview the season in totality, East and West, in terms of the seedings, the awards, and the eventual champs. So stay tuned for that. No rapid fire for today, guys. We're gonna get up out of here, watch Monday Night Football. I think it is starting as I speak, actually. So we're gonna get up out of here. Thank you for watching. This is NTL Sports Podcast, episode 46. Thank you so much. Thank you for subscribing. On YouTube, follow us on Twitter, all that good stuff. We're on Spotify as well. So just make sure you keep up with us. We'll keep bringing you some great content. All right. So with that being said, this is your boy Markel, and we're out. Peace, y'all.